At the beginning of the film, we are taken to a small town in Argentina. The houses there are equipped with tight security systems because the area is prone to theft. Many thieves roam around, making burglaries a common occurrence. One day when the streets are quiet, a man named Kiro is seen breaking into a car. Kiro is a car theft specialist. With ease, he manages to steal the car's radio. However, not satisfied with just taking the items inside, Kiro, who has no morals, urinates all over the car. After completing his so-called mission, he prepares to leave. Unfortunately, the car does not let him go. The doors lock, and he becomes trapped inside. Ciro tries to shoot the car window, but unfortunately, the bullet ricochets and hits his leg. He then ties his leg with his clothes to slow the bleeding. It turns out the car was specially modified to catch thieves. That day would become one Kiro would never forget. To make matters worse, he is forced to endure the stench of urine caused by his own actions. Ciro remains trapped inside the car until nightfall, without food, without water, and with limited air. Eventually, he falls asleep. The next morning, he reinstalls the radio he had stolen and listens to his favorite song to calm his mind. As he enjoys the music, suddenly, a call comes through the car's system. It turns out the caller is the car's owner, a man named Enrique. He is a 60-year-old widowed obstetrician. Enrique explains that his car has been stolen 28 times. Because of this, he modified his car with an advanced security system designed to trap thieves. Enrique knows that Ciro is inside the car thanks to an alarm system that sends notifications to his phone. The car has ultra-dark tinted windows, a soundproof system, disabled suspension, and a bulletproof steel body. Even more shocking, Enrique reveals that he can control the car using just his phone, even detonate it at any time. Ciro, who is starting to get thirsty, begs Enrique for water, but suddenly the call disconnects. Moments later, the car's air conditioning turns on by itself. At first, the cold air felt comfortable, but if the AC kept running non-stop, his body could freeze. Kiro began to shiver. With the last of his strength, he removed the shirt he had used as a bandage for his leg and used newspapers to cover all the AC vents to reduce the cold. Not long after, a police officer approached Enrique's car. The officer issued a ticket because the car's windows were too darkly tinted. Seeing an opportunity, Ciro started shouting and shaking the car, hoping the officer would notice him. However, since the car was soundproof and its suspension had been disabled, the officer had no idea there was someone inside. Rain began to fall and Enrique called Ciro again. This time he asked for Kiro's full name and ID number. In exchange, Enrique promised to give him some drinking water. Ciro answered his questions, and Enrique told him there was a small amount of water from the windshield cleaning hose at the back of the car that he could drink. Although he finally got some water, Kiro remained hungry as night fell. The next morning, Ciro kept trying to puncture the car door to find a way out. Before long, Enrique called again. During their conversation, Ciro complained that his gunshot wound was getting infected, and now he was developing a fever. In response, Enrique activated the car's heating system to prevent Kiro's condition from worsening. As they talked, Enrique shared details about his life. It turned out he only had 1 year left to live due to a malignant tumor. He also reminisced about the many robberies he had experienced in the past. With his hunger becoming unbearable, Kiro was forced to eat pages from the car's manual book. Even worse, since there was no water left, he ended up drinking his own urine. Suddenly, another thief appeared and attempted to break into the car. However, he was caught by the local residents and apprehended before he could even get inside. On the third night, Kiro grew increasingly frustrated with Enrique's endless chatter over the phone. He decided not to answer his calls. His worsening hunger made him consider eating a cricket that was trapped inside the car with him. However, he couldn't bring himself to do it, as the cricket was the only living creature keeping him company during his ordeal. Shortly after, Kiro became even more distressed when he saw a young couple engaging in inappropriate activities right in front of the car's window. The next day, Enrique called again, and this time Ciro finally answered. Enrique told Ciro that there was a chocolate bar hidden behind the brake pedal. Starving, Ciro quickly grabbed it, but without water, eating chocolate became a miserable experience. Desperate to find another way to survive, Kiro tried charging his phone battery by exposing it to sunlight. He hoped it would regain some power, but his efforts were in vain. Finally, after much effort, Cairo managed to make a small hole in the car door. He started shouting for help, but unfortunately the hole was too small for anyone outside to see him. To make matters worse, his voice had grown weak, making his attempts to attract attention even more futile. Not long after, Enrique called again and told Cairo that he had visited his wife and child. Enrique even gave them 100,000, claiming that Cairo had won a prize. Enrique assured him that he hadn't harmed his family, but Cairo still didn't trust him. Then, Enrique revealed that he had obtained Cairo's criminal record. It turned out that Cairo had killed several people in the past. However, Cairo defended himself, saying that all the killings were acts of self-defense. Hearing this, Enrique felt that Cairo deserved to be punished by being trapped inside the car as payback for his past deeds. After spending the entire day trying to charge his phone, Cairo finally managed to turn it on, though only with a tiny bit of battery left. Without wasting time, he immediately tried calling his wife, but her phone was off. He only had time to leave a voicemail, but before he could say anything, his phone died again. That night, as Cairo sat in frustration, he absent-mindedly pressed the car's start button. To his surprise, the engine roared to life. However, with the gear shift stuck and unable to move forward, Cairo could only drive the car in reverse. He slammed on the gas and crashed the car hard into an electric pole. At last, he was free. After escaping, Cairo's first destination was the nearest convenience store. He immediately grabbed food and drinks without thinking about how to pay for them. But it was all just a dream. Shortly after, Enrique called him again. In a state of despair, Cairo declared that he was going to end his life right then and there. However, when he pointed the gun at his head and pulled the trigger, the weapon jammed. Suddenly, Enrique was standing in front of the car, turning on the headlights so Cairo could clearly see his face. Enrique then entered the car and examined Cairo's weak condition. He handed Cairo a cigarette, a piece of chocolate, and even treated his wound. At that moment, Cairo realized that Enrique had a psychopathic nature. Not only was he calm and relaxed, but he also showed no remorse whatsoever. In fact, he seemed satisfied after tormenting Cairo inside the car. When Enrique received a phone call from one of his patients, Cairo saw an opportunity to strike. Without hesitation, Cairo grabbed his gun and shot Enrique before rushing out of the car. This time, Cairo had truly escaped. Panicked, he desperately tried to call for help from the people around him. But with his voice barely audible, no one noticed him right away. As a last resort, Cairo fired a shot into the air to get their attention. However, Enrique was still alive. The shot had only grazed his cheek, leaving a superficial wound. In an instant, Enrique forced Cairo back into the car. Luckily, a patrolling police officer witnessed the incident. By now, Enrique had been holding Cairo hostage for 2 hours, and a crowd had gathered around the scene to watch the situation unfold. Tensions rose as the crowd split into two sides. Some supported Cairo while others backed Enrique, knowing that Cairo was a criminal. As the situation spiraled out of control, the police decided to call in a negotiator, hoping to resolve the standoff peacefully. Here, Enrique briefly criticized the police, pointing out how many robbers had been caught only to be released soon after. This, he argued, was why criminals never learned their lesson and kept committing crimes. Feeling that justice did not exist, Enrique wanted to punish criminals with his own hands. He believed that because of the weak legal system, the number of robbers was only increasing. Hearing Enrique's words, many people agreed with him, as they had often been victims of robberies themselves, yet the perpetrators were never truly punished. The negotiator slowly approached Enrique. As a strategy, he challenged Enrique to shoot Cairo right then and there so the problem could be resolved immediately. However, he also reminded Enrique of the consequences. If he really killed Cairo, Enrique's son would forever be known as the child of a murderer. Hearing this, Enrique hesitated. After thinking for a moment, he ultimately chose to let Cairo go. But Enrique did not surrender to the police. Instead, he got into the car. Knowing that he only had 1 year left to live and that his name was already tarnished by this incident, Enrique made his final decision. By pressing the car's self-destruct button, Enrique blew up the vehicle, along with himself. A few days after the incident, Enrique's story went viral. People began discussing the lack of security in Argentina, just as Enrique had pointed out. The main issue was the absence of justice in the country, allowing crime to continue without any real deterrence. Ironically, despite all the crimes Cairo had committed, He would soon be released. And the movie ends.